Hi guys, my name is Roger, and ever since I was a teenager, I've always wanted to build my own car. I started this channel to see if an average person, like me, can design and build their own mid-engine car. If you like what you see here in my videos, please click the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you know someone who you think might be interested in my videos, please share the videos with them. If you have the means and would like to donate to help complete this car, there's a link below to my Patreon account. If not, just watch and enjoy the videos. I'll be adding a new video every week, and with that out of the way, let's get started with this week's video. Hi guys, this is my first video and I wanted to do it as kind of an introduction to me and the car that I'm designing. Like I said in the intro, my name is Roger. I am an engineer by trade. I have been an engineer and a SolidWorks user for about 23 years now. I have built and restored 3 different airplanes. I've been interested in cars since I was a teenager, probably like most of you. As a teenager, I grew up watching movies like Cannonball Run, which is probably where I saw my first Lamborghini Countach, Magnum PI, driving a Ferrari 308. Cars like that were always intriguing to me. I love the cars and have always been interested in cars like this and muscle cars since being a teenager. I have always wanted to build my own car. I used to buy and read kit car magazines as a kid, as a teenager. Dreamed about building a kit car someday. And that kind of morphed through the years into wanting to design and build my own car from scratch, which is what I'm trying to attempt. A little bit about the airplanes. I'll show you some photos. The first airplane here, this is a picture of me and part of the airplane. I bought the plans for this airplane and scratch built it, and all aluminum construction. I made wood patterns, cut out all of the aluminum parts and formed them around the wood patterns. So every piece of metal in this airplane was handmade and assembled by me. Here's another photo. And this is the finished airplane. Okay, for my next project, I bought this airplane. It was in bad need of a restoration. You can see here the wood is in pretty sad shape. Tore it down completely, restored it, new fabric, new wood. And here's the finished project. Turned out pretty nice. I sold this airplane and purchased this. This was the last airplane I restored. It had been sitting outdoors in the weather for about 35, 36 years, so it was in pretty sad shape when I purchased it. Completely stripped this airplane down. All new wiring, new engine, repainted everything. And a completed photo. Sold it a few years back. Don't own an airplane now, so I'm kind of realizing my dream of always wanting to build a car. This is my first car design that I started probably 2.5 years ago. It's similar to the one I'm doing now, but there's been a lot of little subtle changes. You can see that it is a 2-seater mid-engine configuration. It's this Corvette C5 suspension radiator and the LS engine in the back. This body is one that I designed myself. Never finished it. You can see the back was never finished. Wasn't happy with the way it was going, so stopped working on it. Car bodies are modeled with surfaces, and surfaces are not what I'm really good at. I have several hours involved in this body design, and it just wasn't turning out the way I wanted it to, so I stopped working on it. Again, subtle changes, but quite a few changes. You can see the frame, the aluminum frame, the structure. It's what we'll be starting on first. The tub for the interior is all carbon fiber. The suspension is Corvette C5 suspension. Transaxle is a Mendiola. Aluminum skins on the floor of the car. Steel roll bar.
The single one-piece radiator in the front will probably change to 2 smaller radiators in front of each front tire. A lot of little small sketches you'll see turned on here for wheelbase, geometry, suspension, things like this.
Okay guys, I wanted to give you a little tour of my shop where I'm going to be building the car and what I have already purchased and already started working on before this first video. This is my basement. It is 16 by 40, a little tight, but hopefully I can make it work. I also have a 2-car garage attached to the house, and I'll be using one of those bays to store parts and components. There is a CNC router that I built a couple of years ago up there now being stored that I will use to build the body and body panels of the car. But let's take a look around here and see what I have. This is Corvette C5 rear suspension that I've purchased. You see the sway bar leaning up in the corner. The entire rear suspension with some extra parts sitting around it. Over here we have the front suspension off of the same car, C5 Z06. The cradles here I just used for measurements, and I will not be using on my car, but I needed those critical measurements to put into my chassis. And speaking of chassis, our frame, here's some of the pieces that I've already cut. I've got them sitting here kind of in order as the way they will be to build the car. A couple of front pieces here sitting alone, but the rear pieces are kind of in order as the way they'll be welded together. Here's the rest of the tubing waiting to be cut into pieces. Some scraps there laying on top, and all the large pieces, some still unpackaged. Here's the engine I will be using. It is a Chevrolet LS engine. This particular engine is an LC7 or 9. I believe it's an LC9. It is aluminum block. Get a closer look. It has been completely rebuilt and is finished except for intake, throttle body, and fuel injectors. Haven't purchased those yet because I'm not quite sure what I'm going to be using. I'm still looking around. Okay, and we have this. I was guessing at cockpit dimensions when I designed the car. I needed to build a mock-up of the cabin area just for size and space reference to make sure it was the right dimensions, large enough. I mocked this up, bought some seats. I have purchased Corvette C6 pedal assembly and pulled the clutch, brake, and throttle off the assembly and mocked them up here just for, again, size and fit reference. The steering column is off of a Corvette C7. It is power tilt and power telescopic, and just mocked up a brace here to attach it to kind of get a fit. I wanted to give you guys a size reference for fitting. So I'm going to climb into the car. Obviously this will be the door. No steering wheel yet, but you can imagine where it's going to be sitting. I am about 5'11" and a half. This feels pretty comfortable for me, the way I typically drive. There are a good 3, maybe 4 inches of area behind the seat, and I've actually extended the firewall forward a couple of inches because originally the cockpit was a little too small, and I have added another inch behind the seats that's not shown here for taller people. I'm hoping that the cockpit will be the right size to fit someone up to about 6'3" tall comfortably when the seat is slid all the way to the rear of the cockpit. But seats will be about an inch below the roof of the car, so the roof of the car is about 2 inches taller than the top of the seat, overall outside dimension. So, and I have blocks, 6-inch blocks underneath the cockpit area here to simulate how high off the ground the car will be. Of course, this height can be adjusted with the coilover shocks on the suspension and raise and lower possibly an inch either direction to get it exactly where I want it once the body is sitting on it. But not too bad to get in and out of, at least like this. Okay, as we continue our way around the shop, I have a small MIG welder that I just purchased. I am new to TIG welder. Sorry, I am new to TIG welding and new to welding aluminum. I do have experience MIG welding and oxygen acetylene welding. Small, old, worn out chop saw, but still works, and I'm still using it. Does the trick, cuts the aluminum wonderfully. Miscellaneous tools and hardware stashed in a toolbox and on shelving. Small drill press, belt sander, and building table. 3 foot by 12 foot, I believe. It's been several years since I've built this table. But some scrap aluminum and steel and miscellaneous fasteners underneath the table. But this is it. This is where I'll be building the car.